Hi, I'm Peggy Luhrs, and this is the Feminist Media Review, brought to you on the second Monday of each month, live at 5:25 on Channel 17. And the call-in number is 862-3966. So this being the Feminist Media Review, I really want to focus today on the media, and I want to focus on the immorality of the media, or I don't know, I may prefer the word ethics, but morality will do. One of the things I did agree with, what was from Marianne Williamson, who was running and may still be running for president. She had one of the things she had to say I thought was very important. She said, we need a moral reawakening in this country, and we desperately do. This is a dreadfully, horribly, existentially, earth-killingly immoral country. This is a country whose economy depends on war, depends on selling weapons. And we sell weapons to wonderful people like the Saudis, who had a journalist chopped up into little pieces and packed in a suitcase because the crown prince didn't like him. I mean, all these dictators, strong, quote, strong men, actually, weak baby men who need to rattle sabers to feel strong. These are all friends of President Trump, who's another weak baby who needs to rattle sabers and scream and yell and have everybody agree with him to feel strong, and lies constantly. So I'm going to talk about the morality and immorality of the media, mostly. First of all, a little bit of background and history of some things that probably most younger people have no idea about, and a lot of us have probably forgotten. But there was a time when I was growing up and watching television. It was fairly new then, but for quite a while, really certainly into my time living in Burlington, and I moved here in 1969. And well after that, it had to be in the early mid-70s, we had a fairness doctrine that was counted for all media. So that meant that if the station went on the air and did some kind of a op-ed of one opinion, you were allowed to ask for equal time. And during elections, candidates were allowed to ask for equal time to their opponents. And a certain amount of TV had to be focused on education. And as things went along, we had less and less. I mean, first of all, the airwaves should have been free to everyone to use. I mean, it was a great gift that we gave them to corporations. They were meant, and they were developed by the government, and they were meant to be for all the people, but in fact we gave them away to corporations, and they act like they own it all, and they want to charge you for everything. And every time the people come up with something new that's closer to media for the people, like the internet and like social networking, corporations attempt to take it over and make it all about money making, because that is all corporations care about. That is all they exist for. To have them be counted as persons is ridiculous, and a corporate move to give them way more power than they ever should have, since they don't have any moral conscience or any of the other things that other human beings do. They don't care about other human beings. All they care about is profit. They used to have charters that said they did public good. They don't do that anymore. Once, years and years ago, the United States thought it would destroy the Russians by having them go broke. I was told this way back in the 60s by Wall Street types that I ran into in New York City. Don't worry about the Russians. They're gonna go broke. Well, we've gone broke, making sure that they went broke. And we are in at least as bad a condition as the Russians were when they first collapsed. And we're coming up to that, believe me. We saw that what happened in 2008, things have not gotten better, they've gotten worse. There are worse laws. They can take your money out of your bank if their banks fail. So you should know that. You should know that your money is not safe in the banks. Never mind your FDIC loans. They have made laws that if they have to prop up the banks again, they will do that, and they can take your money. You think it's your money. Anyway, so that's some of where we are and some of the world we live in. So we have no fairness doctrine. We have no fairness at all. You used to have just a few major networks, and they were relatively interested in factual reporting, and they had foreign bureaus, and they had different kinds of reporters who actually were out there on the scene. They don't have that anymore. They don't bother. It's too expensive. They're all about horse races and you know, some kind of exciting crime thing. Ever since the O.J. Simpson chase got the media into a big to-do, they've liked to have those kind of stories, the soap opera news. Also, in other countries like Germany, they are very clear on what we're doing here in the United States, and they gave it a name, militainment. We have a lot of militainment. We have militainment at football games. It really makes me laugh when people carry on about, isn't it terrible that Colin Kaepernick is taking a knee? Oh, he's bringing politics to the football game. As if the freaking military hadn't already brought it there. As if every football game wasn't a big advertisement for the military and so many other things, like programs like 24/7. And there's a real feedback loop. There's a feedback loop where television programs get tougher and tougher about crime and nastier and more gory and less law-abiding. And they've played the theme for years that cops can't really catch criminals unless they can, you know, beat them up or do things that are illegal. So this is fed, so that the actual conduct of the cops feeds the media, and the media then feeds the cops into this idea that it's perfectly okay to break the law to catch people. We need to. So that's some of the ways. And also, you know, we now have a media that's being censored by the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, who is a guy who invented a social media so he could rate girls at college. So he could, you know, say who was worth, you know, who rated high on some male scale of what women are worth and, you know, who wants to do them. That's what he invented. So that's how deep his brain is. That's the great depth of Mark Zuckerberg. And now Mark Zuckerberg has all your information if you're on social media, and he decides who can speak and who can't speak. And I've heard, it's kind of funny to me sometimes when I listen, even to people I like the Young Turks, and they're talking about, well, it's a touchy subject, banning people from social media. I don't know if we should get into it. News flash for the Young Turks and everybody else, they are taking people off social media. The people they take off are women. They take women off when men feel insulted. Men can make violent remarks, talk to women about dying in a fire, say, do rape threats, horrible things. Women report it, nothing happens. This doesn't violate the standards. But should a woman like Posey Parker say, a man who says he's a woman isn't a woman just because he says so, or any other reason? There's not really any reason that you don't change sex. You keep your original DNA and everything else that you were born with. But if you say that, you can be banned from Twitter. So the people who've been banned from Twitter and Facebook for life are Posey Parker, Megan Murphy, other women, mainly women, who dare to question what men want. But men, and none of these people have engaged in hate speech or threatened violence, but men who threaten violence are allowed to stay on. So that's who we've got. We've got Mark Zuckerberg and his watching out for men's sexual desires, and that's the great, there's your great arbiter of speech now. This brilliant piece of something, this brilliant frat boy gone millionaire because he just lucked into this thing that worked out for him, is now having dinner with Donald Trump and deciding that it's perfectly fine for politicians to come into Facebook and put lies on their media because they can't be bothered to check out all of the things that are said on political commercials. So it's okay to lie. So know that Zuckerberg has told the president, lying is fine. We're fine with it when you lie. We're fine with men lying all the time. What we're not fine with is truth. We're not fine with anybody who dares to talk about, a wealth tax or anything like that. But one of the other ways, so I think one of the sad things is that most people honestly think they're getting news when they turn on MSNBC or CNN or Fox. And I mean, Fox, I think most people do know that Fox is totally right-wing. But MSNBC is pretty much the leadership of the Democratic Party line, and CNN is who knows what, but not very honest. And they're all owned by large corporations with heavy ties. They used to be Westinghouse and GE, and they tend to be media companies now, but they are all, it's only a few companies owning everything, and they're all tied to the military-industrial complex. And this country spent $1.75 million, spends $1.75 trillion a year last year on war, spends that kind of trillions of dollars every year on war. But if you say you need health care, we don't have, where are we going to get the money? Where are we going to get the money? Where are we going to get the money? Well, but we always have it for the F-35s, which are making people deaf out by the airport, which are ruining the housing in the area, but maybe setting up some great developments for Mr. Pomelo, and a great ego project for Senator Leahy, who pushed this thing through despite the Air Force admitting that this was not an ideal spot for this plane. But Lockheed Martin's making a lot of money, and Peter Welch and Bernie Sanders won't take on Senator Leahy on this. They're going along with it and carrying on. Bernie's excuse is, there's going to be jobs, and so we'd rather have them here than have them go to Florida. Well, that's not even true. There really aren't going to be jobs. The jobs will be outsourced. On the other hand, I want to say about the media, one of the things they do that I think is incredibly immoral is that they give every single day unbelievable amounts of space to every lie, to every piece of garbage, to every creepy, misspelled, racist, sexist, misogynist tweet that comes out of this man's mouth, I guess. Feels like it comes out at the other end. This idiot who, unfortunately, was elected president by our electoral college, and some low information voters, I would say, and some racist and also misogynists. Apparently still, they say half the men in the country can't see voting for a woman. That's because I guess women are too emotional, unlike men, unlike these crying, screaming babies like, what was his name? Kavanaugh, crying at his trial. While the woman who testified against him really had something to cry about, and she still hasn't been able to have a safe home life since then. She's had to move several times, and she has had her life threatened. But he was crying because he might not get his big position that he was promised all his whole life. He's such a privileged boy. He should get it. Well, he's there. And so we've got another misogynist on the court. We've already got Clarence Thomas, who we know got there. And Joe Biden helped him out by not calling the other witnesses who could have backed up Anita Hill in her story, but they didn't want to do that. It's a boys' club. The Senate is a boys' club. And unfortunately, on the F-35, even Bernie and Peter and are part of Leahy's boys' club in pushing for the F-35. On the other hand, while the media gives 24-hour day coverage to, as I said, every piece of garbage that comes out of the mouth of the orange one, it is completely blacking out Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is actually, in many polls, a front runner. Absolutely amongst the young, a front runner. Amongst college-age people, a front runner, has huge rallies and a very excited base, has more than a million people on the ground, and has a message of unity and inclusion. And our media just have decided to do as little as possible to let anyone know what Bernie's message is. In fact, PBS just did a special on all the Democratic candidates without even mentioning Bernie. This is a total blackout. This is as bad as the McCarthy era. You are leaving out this person who has generated more excitement, who has influenced everyone else, almost everyone else anyway, in the Democratic field. They've all changed their positions from Medicare for All being just outlandish to how different ones of them will approach it. And as Bernie said, he wrote the damn bill. So this keeping a Bernie Sanders whose message is unity, whose message is that Black people, white people, all races, and men and women, gays and lesbians can all work together. This is a good message. This is the kind of message we need to pull the country together. But the media don't want Bernie Sanders because the media are the elite and they are propaganda organs. And what's really sad is that most people have no clue that they're watching propaganda. They still think they're watching news. When the Russians, when it was the Soviet Union and they had TASS and Pravda, they knew it was propaganda. They knew not to believe it. People are getting that way in this country, but in a very disturbed kind of way of tribalists, just choosing a network that they think will reflect their views. But pretty hard to get the truth that way. You have to do some digging, and I've talked before about some of the sources that I think are good. I think The Rising with Crystal Ball is good. I think the Young Turks are good reporters. I think that the Majority Report with Sam Cedar does good reporting. I think that there's other sources on the web that you could... oh, I have a phone call. All right, I'm going to call line 1. Hello, caller? Yes?
Do you want everybody to hear? Wait, hold on. Do you want to put it on the air?
Yeah. So, sorry, I wanted to put you on the air. Okay, so forgot that.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying about Jay Peak and Bird Mountain.
Yeah, that was another corporate scam that took a lot of state money, didn't it? And yeah, I think that was outrageous, and I think it's outrageous. I mean, one of the good things that happened with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York, they pushed against Amazon getting a whole lot of tax breaks to move into New York, and then Amazon said, oh, well, we won't be there, we won't have... Well, guess what? They're there, they're expanding, they're doing fine, and they didn't get the tax breaks. And this is...
You do a nice show. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your call. So, yeah, he's made a good point that, I mean, this is another thing that happens with corporations. We give them everything. We have this, we had the state of Vermont pushing, we could be, one of the things the state is doing right now is it will give $10,000 from somebody from another place who wants to come here and start a business. Well, it would be nice if you would if that money would be earmarked for Vermonters to start a business. We talk about wanting to keep people here. Well, we have to invest in the people here. We invest very little in our students. There's not a lot of leeway for in-state people. It's still very expensive to go to UVM. We could spend our money that way. And the fact is, the corporations are going to move into major cities like New York. People are going to want to come to Vermont because it's a beautiful place, it's an incredible place, and it has an incredible workforce. we don't need to be throwing money at these people because they come and say, well, what are you going to give us and what tax break do we get? They've had enough tax breaks. I think you know that. Oh, we got another one. Sorry, I guess I hung up on you. You've got another. Call back if you were trying to call. I'll try to get it right. This. Just push line. Okay. So, but what I wanted to get to was that, you have everybody playing to corporations. You have a media that is playing to this, I can't even call him a president. He doesn't really do anything as president. He just kind of plays a lot of golf, spends a lot of money, and tweets a lot of garbage. But the media never let us forget what he has to say. In the meantime, a blacking out of a Bernie Sanders means that what the media is doing is pushing on the American people a racist, misogynist, nasty, divisive message every day and saying this is from the top. Meanwhile, where there is a movement on the bottom, where there is a great coming together of people, if you saw the rally in Queens, it was quite amazing. And a message from Bernie, the best part of Bernie's message, in my opinion, is that he says, it's not me, it's we. Because one of the really, really good things about Bernie Sanders, and I know Bernie Sanders a little bit, I used to work with him, he knows organizing. He understands that nothing happens really without a movement. I mean, we need the people in power, their main thing they want to do is make you believe that all the power is with them, that the most important thing in the world for you to do is pay attention to the spectacle, and the spectacle is the horse race of who's going to win. Meanwhile, while they're showing us this spectacle, they're not telling us much about how our environmental laws are being dismantled. They're not telling us about people who have solutions like Bernie or Elizabeth or a lot of other people that they keep out. I mean, they keep out third-party candidates from debates, which didn't used to happen when the League of Women Voters ran the debates. They were much more honest. Now they're just media spectacles and garbage and, the horse race. So we're not hearing about what's really affecting us. For all the intense weather we've had that is totally related to climate change, the media doesn't speak about that. Our media is immoral. Our media is immoral because it's all about being corporate, and corporations are nothing but immoral structures to funnel profits upward, and they are working very well at doing that. They are funneling the profits upward. We have now a situation where a handful of people own more money than half of the rest of the people in the world. That is insane. There is no reason for that. No one needs that kind of money. $150 billion for Jeff Bezos is not necessary. It's immoral and beyond what anyone needs to be doing. And not helping a lot of other people. I mean, cutting out businesses by working people to death to get packages there fast so that they can keep their thing going, and now looking to take over food distribution as well, just like Monsanto wanted to be the only distributor of seeds in the world and the major but unfortunately the campaigns against Monsanto have worked. Monsanto's in trouble. Monsanto was sold to Bayer because the Monsanto name is pretty deadly now. We need to do that to Nestle's, which is stealing all our water. We need to do that to the media, which is not telling us the truth. The media is lying and keeping us, attempting to keep us all fascinated with this horse race and numbers that are pretty meaningless at this point in time anyway. And clearly, when there is a large groundswell for someone like Bernie who really would do some different things. I mean, I've had the experience of living in Burlington before Bernie was mayor and after Bernie was mayor, and then of working in City Hall for 10 years. My first years that I was working there, Bernie was the mayor. He then went on to be our congressperson and then senator. And I saw what happened when Gordon Paquette was in, and we went to talk to him about women getting abused in Burlington. His exact words were, "What are you women talking about, a beating? You mean a little slap in the face?" Oh, okay, Gordon, a little slap in the face. That's okay. That's how men should treat their wives, huh? Anyway, and he was all about the urban renewal and destroying what was an Italian neighborhood. Now we had Bernie, and you started to see people in City Hall. You saw a kids council, you saw an arts council, you saw a women's council, which I was the head of for 10 years. You saw different things and all kinds of people coming into City Hall where no one went there before. And now we are back to, a Democratic mayor, and we're back to, gentrification, turning the park with the few trees that we have downtown into cement, and not that they didn't do it with the cooperation of some of the progressives that have stayed there or once were progressives, now are more established. That's what you get. You don't get our two parties. I do believe the Democrats are not as bad as the Republicans, especially now when the Republicans will stand for anything and will back Trump no matter what. And for all the crying and moaning they've done about the Russians in past years, they're perfectly happy to have a president that reports and has secret conversations with Vladimir Putin, and has been attempting to get the Ukrainians to get Oppo info for him for his candidacy. Of course, the really horrible things that he's done, like what's been done to children by putting them in cages and by separating them from their parents, really should be the reasons he's being impeached, not just. I mean, he should be impeached on this. It is illegal to be getting information from a foreign country to influence the elections. But he was doing that when he was running. He should have been impeached the day he got in because he was violating the emoluments cost, and he's clearly used the office for his personal benefit, which is all he's ever done in his life. The man is a total narcissist, and I will again say what I think is the most relevant thing to say when you're listening to him. Narcissist accusations are confessions. So when he says Adam Schiff is crazy and a really disturbed man who, for obvious reasons has been disturbed for a long time, this is Donald Trump he's talking about, because that is the only subject the man knows, because he is all about Donald Trump and nothing and no one else in the world. And why anyone thought this person would save them, I don't know. He just went out and lied, and it worked, apparently. So your media is immoral. Your media is lying to you. So is the social media, and they will ban you and stifle you if you say something that they don't like. And it's being done not on any high level of agreed upon ethics. It's being done by a bunch of men for their reasons, which often include rather bizarre sexual desires, and that's it. They don't care, and you are not being told the truth. Anything less than independent media is just a commercial.